Hello everybody, I'm Alex Wong with Millennium Interstate Realty and welcome back to this week's Real Estate Weekly. I do apologize for the absence of the last two since I was traveling and getting some work done, but we should be from this point on back in the swing of motion. I got a bunch of great interviews lined up that I'm very excited to share with you all, and as well as our YouTube is going to be getting a big boost of content creation. I'm looking to aim at probably about 2 videos a week, as well as our social medias. We're going to be posting a lot of helpful information there as well. So without further ado, this one's going to be a little bit brief and short, but this is going to be one of the not the last time, but another time. I'm going to quickly touch on the NAR settlement now that everything is almost finalized and in full force that we're starting to see take place and in action. I'm going to explain for buyers essentially what that is going to mean for you, as well as I'm going to upload some more videos regarding sellers and all that to my YouTube channel. But this week's Real Estate Weekly is going to be about NAR settlement for buyers. What does this mean? Because so far some people I talk to are not aware of, and I'm just wanting to put the message out there so you're not blindsided by anything new. So in case you're more in tune to this, right up here I believe there's a little eye icon. You can click that. It will take you to my full in-depth video going over our complete analysis of all the documents and in-depthly explaining to you what the procedures are. But to briefly go over it, real estate world has changed in terms of the NAR settlement. Beginning on August 1st, buyers will now have to sign an exclusive buyer agencies agreement or non-exclusive, depending which one they choose, with their agent or broker. Now, there's also 2 sets of forms that must be signed immediately based on essentially first contact with your agent is something called the CIS form. It stands for Consumer Information Statement, and what that is a 2-page paper that talks about essentially the different parties in the transaction, right? You're the buyer, you're saying it's okay to speak with me, the agent, and my brokerage, Millennium Interstate Realty, or whoever that may be. Now, that is going to be the first form that gets filled out immediately. Now, following that is where you're going to file your buyer agency agreement. Now, with this whole hoopla with commission in the real estate world, commissions were always negotiable from the beginning, and these forms were actually been around for a very long time. However, they were not commonly used depending on the area that you are from. I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard other states they were a little bit more common to be used. However, New Jersey, it depended on the brokerage and agent. Now, what this form essentially outlines is all of the legal and duties responsible for the buyer and for the agent, and it just clearly defines it among lines. So there's full transparency of what is happening with a real estate transaction. Now, in terms of compensation and commissions, depending on where you go, we're going to use 3% as this example. When you sign an agreement, right, there is also now a chance that the seller does not pay a commission. However, what we've seen so far is most of them are cooperating with the buyer's side agreement. As your buyer's agent, you are only paying your buyer's agent. You are not paying the seller's agent. And what that is if the buyer, or sorry, my apologies, if the seller is not offering a commission, then the buyer would go ahead and upfront the cost for their service essentially. Now, if the seller is offering commission and we have an agreement together for 3%, then that means the seller, let's say they're offering 2%, you would only make up that 1% difference. Now let me tell you, this is why you might see this more commonly around. If I sign an agreement for 2% with you and the seller offers me 2.5% or 3%, I legally cannot collect more than the amount that we have agreed upon. Now, there's different brackets as well in terms of compensation. Some of them may offer an upfront retainer fee, right? To work with me, you put $1,000 upfront, let's say, just as an example, and that gets applied towards your commission at the end of close, right? Or a flat fee, depending, as I said, the structure of the agreement. Now, this is also negotiable as well, so you can discuss with the realtor what you're comfortable with and what you want to have done. Now, Besides commission part, there's going to be a property showing section, and this is going to briefly talk about what type of properties are you comfortable seeing. Do you want to see properties with buyer's agency commission, without buyer's agency commission, essentially all properties, or did you want to see certain properties? So you can choose it in there. There's also a term length that can be specifically a contract just for a property. It can be the agreement to work together for a month, for 2 months, for 6 months, however long that may be, or until you get a house, right? So those are going to be the different types of, it could be a defined date, and that is how the agreement's going to be laid out, right? There's also different contractual provisions that you can add in. Let's say depending on certain agreements that you may have and requirements, you can discuss with them, and there's spots to add it and change around what you are comfortable with your agent, right? To have both parties be okay and separated to say this is your duty and this is your duty, right? So you could go ahead and sign that, and what that means is that you and your agent will now be exclusively working together. Now I'm just going to briefly touch upon really quickly open houses, right? Just simply walking to an open house. Unfortunately, I don't really know if it's going to be that simple anymore, right? There's now going to be a sign that should be promptly positioned for you to see immediately when you walk in, where it's going to ask you if you have a buyer's, if you're already working with a buyer's agent and you're there without him, you're going to have to present that, hey, I'm working with this buyer, right? This buyer's agent. And the seller's agent is going to show fiduciary duty to the seller, right? And it's going to be clearly outlined in a big block of text at the top of this one sheet of paper that should be posted in a window or on a door to saying, whatever you say or do in that open house is not going to be confidential, right? So just want to give you a little advice and warning out there, just so you're aware, so you don't stumble upon anything that you're not aware about essentially already, so you don't get surprised by anything. So that's just briefly going over it. Again, as I mentioned, you can check it out. I'll put it in the description as well. You can watch that video and I go in depth over it. And yeah, that's just what I want to talk about. We're going to be going back into more tips and tricks and advice heading forward on the Real Estate Weekly. So thank you so much again, and I appreciate the patience over the last couple weeks, and I look forward to servicing all of you and helping the best that I can. If you have any questions, reply to this email, shoot me a text, anything. I'll be more than happy to help you. All right? So hope everyone has a great rest of their day and week, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Take care.